Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I wanted to do a quick response of my thoughts on creative director Joel here with Dune Awakening on PvE and PvP. Various endgame activities that seem to have been clashing. They put out a pretty big memo today, so let's go through it. So for some of you, if you're not as aware, there's been a lot of backlash on Dune Awakening as players have hit the endgame. The last tier of equipment, of building, pretty much everything goes into the deep desert and it suddenly becomes full-on PvP. As a result, a lot of the audience that plays PvE exclusively and was told the game would have optional PvP are feeling that it's not too optional anymore as they go out there and hit essentially a wall. So they started off this letter and saying, we want PvE players to be able to play the endgame and have access to the content of the endgame. Our goal is not to force PvE players to interact with a PvP system that they may have no interest in. The problem with the PvE experience at Endgame is they never created a place for them. It is possible to create different endgame experiences that both contribute to similar goals in MMOs. This is just never really done with much effort by dev teams. But in this case, the Landsraad is supposed to be that system that combines the effort of factions. However, the Landsraad isn't just slightly off, it's probably the most disconnected system from the game currently. I was browsing Reddit this morning and I saw a video from Carnage who said something pretty accurately that there is no real end game in Dune Awakening currently. It's just a series of broken mechanics barely working together. And it's pretty accurately said, and the backbone of that broken mechanic is the Landsraad system. It doesn't remotely deliver in any respects, even if it was working as it's currently intended for the PvE or for the PvP audience. Now, for the PvE audience, the Landsraad is really all they would have to contribute to endgame if they want no part in PvP, because the only endgame activity really is the deep desert, and that is fully PvP. If you're a PvE player that didn't want to do any PvP, the endgame activity for you is right here. This was it. Kill slavers, deliver copper ingots, kill deserters, deliver stillsuit tubings, and we're talking thousands of these things. Like, who's going to craft thousands of heal kit Mark 6s? And in the end, you can just bypass this system once you get enough spice flowing, which only comes really in mass from PvP. So what are we talking about here? What was the activity for endgame PvEers? So as a result, what they're doing is turning some of the deep desert PvP areas into PvE. And what this is going to do is allow PvEers to go in there and have access to the endgame tier. So currently we just have really the A row, that is the only part that's safe zone. I imagine they're going to extend this probably at least to B and C will be safe zones. And you can see titanium, stravidium was mainly pretty deep in. So some of this will move down, and I guess some of the spice fields will also move down. They also said the reality is that players are reporting being cut out of the endgame due to the extremely competitive nature of the deep desert. I did not like the way this was said. What they are calling extremely competitive nature is what people on Reddit are calling griefing. But frankly, it is difficult to separate in this game. People do want a PvP in the game, and others want to avoid it. For many, they never put themselves in a position for it, and the some that do may find themselves killed by 5 players coming in and rocketing one guy. He essentially has no chance. The 5 players gain nothing for killing this person other than removing potential competition from their environment. All in all, this is a failure on how the game is designed. They expected an organic battlefield where people would constantly have similar number battles and trade blows and things that feel even out there. The reality is far from that. People may harvest peacefully together, or sometimes large forces come in and they wipe everything out so they can take it for themselves. These are the only 2 common scenarios I really see, and I have seen it pretty constantly. In both cases, we do not have a real battlefield, nor anything remotely persistent. That is the real problem. People may know there are 15 ornithopters in a sector, and if they don't have at least 10 or 12 people, they're not even going to bother responding. And it's difficult to meet people in this game as well, due to the failure in social hub atmosphere or knowing who's who, what guilds are what. I have no idea who I'm dealing with out there. Next up, they said in the PvE areas, they're going to open up T6 resources and testing stations. So let me just start with testing stations. If they open this up to Mark 6 recipes in these test stations, everyone's going to be able to loot it and it will absolutely bury item value overnight. I can do the math for you, because right now in the deep desert, every 90 minutes, only one person can loot the chest. So if a group clears it, one person loots it every 90 minutes and they have to split that loot somehow. And this can only be looted 16 times per day, max, just for that week, and it goes out of rotation for the next week. This creates some value for items currently. If everyone can come collect these recipes every 90 minutes in the safe zones, these items will have no value after that week and the weeks to follow because it'll be very common and heavily stocked. This further devalues the exchange system, which is a system that is already struggling and eliminates one of the only unique values it would have in the coming months. To be clear, I'm not against these changes that they add some PvE areas, but the blueprint system is kind of whack right now and needs a redesign both in PvE and PvP areas. Pure 90-minute static respawns is terrible design, and people can just walk in, not even fight anything. You can just camp your character there for the day while you work and loot it every 90 minutes. It's pretty absurd. Next up, they have the T6 resources, the titanium and stravidium. And I am curious, how many resources are we talking about here? It's not that the respawns take that long for metal either, but this will be kind of silly at first, likely, or just any environment that's active at all. I'm not against it, but you have to understand, you didn't fight over metal like aluminum and Haga Basin likely, because there was so much and they were split on different sietches. When every siege comes together in the safe zone on a limited lower supply, it's going to be a little different. Unless your server's, dying, which isn't a great indicator of health either. On the flip side though, honestly, this lowers the cost of pain and punishment to engage in PvP too. So actually, I see this as a big pro for PvP environment. People don't want to really risk things and this lowers the risk. But currently you can just build over resources too, so I'll be interested to see how that looks, if they're going to block off being able to build there. Otherwise, I can see people immediately building boxes over these things. Lastly, in this section, they have the Landsraad control points, shipwrecks, and the largest spice fields, which are the ringworm ones, in this region of the deep desert will remain PvP, which means they're still going to have these in the PvE sectors. Let's say they make it rows B, C, and D, for example. You will still have PvP areas in there, like shipwrecks. We're pretty familiar with that. But then also the spice fields, the large ones. I really wonder what the range will be on this, because I can tell you at some point there's likely to be some safe zone hopping here with rocket users, and you'll actually see real griefing in these locations. People just diving in to make people's lives hell. Ultimately, this is kind of a weird decision here. I don't know if I see this one sticking, but I'm pretty interested to see how this one plays out. That pretty much covers what they discuss in changing some of the PvP of Deep Desert to a PvE area. Next up, they also discuss that PvP itself has plenty of issues that need to be addressed, and they're taking steps for those. What they mainly mentioned, again, are scout ornithopters with rockets attached are going to have speed and maneuverability reduced. Rockets firing from scout ornithopters will increase their heat generation, which is going to lower the amount they can fire per second. Thrusters will provide a max speed bonus regardless of wings, ensuring the thruster-equipped scouts will be the fastest vehicle in the game. Currently, you can hit your max glide speed, and once you do that, the booster will not push you past that speed. It's pretty stupid how it works, but that's how it works. I'm actually really happy they're fixing that. And lastly, I also really like this fix. A new T5 infantry rocket launcher will be added to help improve the dynamics of vehicle ground combat. The one thing I really don't like here is they just don't want to take rockets away from scout ornithopters. I don't know why. I don't know why they're so against moving on some of the decisions that they've made. They get pretty stubborn, but there is a lot of good reasons to not have your fastest, most mobile vehicle not having rockets as well. But at least it will be slower and fire less per second now. But why not just let it be a scout vehicle and let the assault ornithopter be an assault vehicle? If anything, they could give the scout ornithopter a light gun on the nose or something, but whatever. The thruster change is good, and having accessible rockets at T5 is also a very good change. After discussing some of the PvP concerns, they said finally, the intended dynamic has always been combined arms. We have infantry and ground vehicles and air vehicles, and they're all supposed to have clear roles, clear strengths, and clear counters. Thopters will always be incredibly important for crossing the desert, but they shouldn't also be the dominant force in actual battles. We're planning to make more changes to the deep desert to accommodate ground battles and reinforce the use of player builds. I love what they're saying here, but I don't understand the current deep desert design if combined arms was ever the vision. We saw it in the trailers, but in practice, over 95% of the deep desert is just open space sand. If you move on it or use a vehicle, the worm is coming. Over 95% is a lot. You can't even use ground vehicles out here. Infantry outside of Bindu sprinting and Shigawire with suspensor belt tactics, it's just out. The things in the trailer do not exist. Ground combat is out because the worm is coming quickly outside of just fighting at these remote little spots on rocks. The other point is there's no clear advantage to having a strong ground force right now either. You can fly around with a scout rocket ornithopter that you can immediately just pack into your pocket on a whim. I'm happy to see we're moving towards combined arms, but there was never any rock, paper, scissor mechanics in this game to promote this, and the terrain of the deep desert does not support its concept remotely. So my question is, how did we get here where we now have to move towards that? This one's just a little demoralizing for me. Lastly, they discussed the Landsraad. We are addressing some key flaws in the Landsraad design, the inability to hand in items after a square is completed, at the rapidity of which some squares are turned in. There's all sorts of problems they talked about here. There's a lot where, as they mentioned here, you can't turn them in. The system as a whole, though, is just kind of junk. I don't even know where to start with the Landsraad. It can and should be what they describe, an umbrella for all endgame activities. I mean, here's my vision of Dune Awakening. You have Harkonnen, you have Atreides fighting against each other in the deep desert, or some other place, whatever it is. Maybe the deep desert just remains as their free-for-all side project that they have to stay loyal to, but we have the Spice Wars. We're battling for land, we're staking claim. PvPers are directly engaging enemies, and they are working with allies and meeting people in a social setting. It's back and forth, it's head-on. PvPers are PvPing. Meanwhile, there are people that harvest, that build, that handle logistics. Similar to how Foxhole has a logistics side in their game, Dune is constructed in such a way that it could have it as well, in its gameplay loop, where PvE and PvP-minded players have a place. They are fighting together, but in completely separate roles. Eventually, they'll have a third house that comes in, they have a three-way, which keeps it more balanced and interesting. You'd have people that can do things with no PvP involved. You have people that will help with logistics like bringing in vehicles or spice harvesting teams that are effective. And that's what they do. That's what they take pride in. They're good at it and they enjoy it. And they're kind of in the PvP, but they're doing a job on the front line. So they're halfway in it. You'd have scouts, infantry teams, vehicle squads, the whole thing. The actual combined arms approach you felt glimpses of in the trailer. It's a really big picture, sure, but functionally all the pieces already exist. But instead what we have is the deep desert with this Landsraad system. People are sent aimlessly into the deep desert and praying that 5 scouts don't appear out of thin air to kill them for absolutely no gain. It's no wonder people there feel that they're being griefed. I'm a PvP player, and I have killed one person with Ornithopter rockets. I kind of felt bad after I did it. I've been on foot looking for PvP in facilities since then. It comes at a cost, there is no gain. There's absolutely no way that holds players long term. So Dune's endgame loop just feels a bit off. But if the real vision of their endgame loop remains similar to how it is now, I fear it will never be viewed by most players as anything more than a toxic wasteland. I think moving towards a larger faction versus faction environment and splitting up functional components is not in their vision though. So I'm not imagining it's happening, but I'll still be interested to see what they cook up, because I like the components of things in Dune Awakening. I just don't find the current delivery creates environments where we utilize this stuff well. I can get on stream and get 15, 20 people loaded with ornithopters. Now what? Do I go to a spice field, find 3 solos peacefully farming and murder them and we rejoice? Like, what are we doing here? I think it's fine to have a free-for-all zone like the deep desert, but as its endgame core loop, it isn't enough to hold. A faction versus faction environment with the Landsraad and having factions actually matter, having some sort of faction pride, would have been a good gameplay loop. Harkos and Atreides right now, they go out there and they kill each other. It doesn't even matter. It's hard to rebound and create a large-scale, healthy, and sustained PvP environment over time from where we are now, so it is a bit concerning. As a result, it may just be a loose-based zone where some servers are peaceful and others just have murderous hordes that are entertained maybe for a couple more weeks. It's pretty sad, and I'm not trying to be a doomer here because I feel like they haven't scratched the surface of really delivering something interesting that they could. I mean, we saw really cool places in Haga Basin that could have PvP. Imagine having PvP in the Haga Rift, Instead, I have this stupidly large desert and no real way to ensure I'll have remotely even fights where both sides are ready and engaged to fight. That kind of sums up some of my thoughts. Honestly, some of the changes here, like the PvP ones, again, with like the Ornithopter reducing its power, pretty good change. I just wish the deep desert was something completely different. The more time I've spent in there, the less it seems it stands the test of time. I still plan to check things out, look for fights. I think some of these changes will actually promote some people to getting out there. It'll be easier for people to accumulate things, and it won't be as much a risk to lose things if it's easier to get them. So at least if nothing else, we can get some activity out there. I do enjoy PvP. I don't want it to be super punishing. There should be like risk reward type gameplay, but right now it just seems like a lot of mobbing. There is a lot of griefing. I absolutely hate the amount of bullshit I see on Reddit now or in this game's Discord. It's complete trash. I fucking hate it. I hate when two communities are pitted against each other. PvEers just absolutely fucking slamming on PvPers. It's just back and forth. It's just terrible because honestly, the environment has put people at odds and it's not really supporting both. And you just get the classic, this is why PvP sucks. And then the classic counter response of, this is why PvE Care Bears are trash. And the reality is, like, you can have game environments where both kind of have places, both are doing things. It can actually exist. And then there's generally all the people that say it's literally impossible for it to exist when it's really not. It's just you need to create the environment and do it appropriately. So here's hoping they can move towards something that does it, because again, I do think Dune Awakening actually has the tools. It has the components to create that environment. There are things people can do and they can contribute to these factions, to these houses. Different games have had different faction v faction stuff, but again, Dune has the ability to gather, to craft, to build, and there's other things like spice harvesting. There are lots of activities that are not direct PvP, and you can combine these different things. So not only do you have combined arms from infantry, ground vehicles, and air combat, but you also have non-combat functions that happen at the same time. Dune Awakening has the ability to make something great. Here's hoping, again, they move towards it. I look forward to playing and continuing to check it out, but the PvP stuff, it might be hit or miss for a little bit, and we'll see. So let me know your guys' thoughts down in the comments. If you agree, disagree, please spare me the I hate PvPers or PvEers are ruining this game. I've seen enough of that for one day. I will see you guys next time.